This is Ed Phoenix 91 here with a deck profile and introduction to the card game Cardfight Vanguard. This...
Cardfight Vanguard?
No, oh, sorry. Future Card Buddy Fight. They're both made by Bushiroad.
Oh.
Blooper already, my bad. Future Card Buddy Fight. Now this is a relatively new card game that has only had one booster pack, one character pack, and 2 trial decks out at the minute.
It's only been out for 10 weeks, 11 weeks.
Yeah, so 2 to 3 months. And it's gaining popularity amongst certain card players in the community. This is it's quite a simple card game and it's quite fast as well. Both players have a deck of 50 or more cards.
I think the maximum's 60, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and each player starts with a flag card representing their world, which, as you can see, is for me is the Danger World, and they have a buddy monster, and my buddy monster is Armonite Cerberus. When a player starts, they draw 6 cards, and they randomly determine who goes first. The starting player does not draw a card. However, they can charge and draw. I should mention at the start of the game also, 2 cards are placed in the gauge zone. This is where costs for cards are paid from. When you charge and draw, you can put a card into your gauge and draw another card from the deck. Monsters can be called to the 3 monster zones, which are left, centre and right. You cannot have total monster sizes exceeding 3. You see how the number there on my monster is 2. I would only be allowed to have another another monster with 1 or 0 on my board. Yes, there are 0 cards in the game as well, which is...
The majority of them are Danger World.
Yeah, I think there is only 1 0 monster and it is in Danger World at the minute. I do believe that the Dragon World is getting another size 0 monster soon.
I think so as well. And
I think that's enough explanation on the mechanics of... Oh, hang on a minute. The starting life is 10, and damage is dealt from the critical of the monster, which is the number here. These are the life counters which Bushiroad give you. Usually the ones out of the trial decks have like characters on the fronts of them. This one was the one that was given with the half decks that they used to promote the game. This is one of the ones that was given with the... This is the one that was out of the Dragon World trial deck. They also go... They really start this way at 10 life, but you can flip them over and they go up to 20 life and down to 0. So... Basically, it allows you to keep track of life as it's going up and down.
It's a lot better as well, instead of like taking 6 damage in Vanguard where it's off your deck.
Yeah, basically you don't end up losing cards because of it. The only cards that you could possibly lose
are from your gauge.
Are from the starting gauge, whereas and also other cards which allow you to charge your gauge from your deck. So that's the only time you could lose cards there. So... Without further ado, I think I shall get on with my profile of the deck. As you can see, my deck is a Danger World deck. That is my buddy monster Armonite Cerberus. And... one side. I use 4 copies of Armonite Eagle. It is the only size 0 monster.
A bit of a zoom up on the cards for the...
Yeah. 4 Armonite Eagles. This is a size 0 monster, which is always nice to have if if I don't have a weapon equipped and I have a size 1 and a 2 on the field, which it allows me to have an extra monster when I realistically shouldn't be able to play anymore, which is always nice. And it is fuel for my buddy monster, which I will get to in a minute. I also for size 1 monsters, I run 4 copies of Armonite Hellhound. It's quite a nice little wall monster for when I want defense on the center line, when I don't have a weapon equipped or I'm low on life and I want to try and conserve conserve my life as best I can. I also run 4 copies of Armonite Succubus. This is quite a good card for the fact that it has a Soul Guard ability. I pay 1 gauge and put an Armonite card from my drop zone into the Soul to... The drop zone is basically the graveyard or discard pile or whatever you want to call it for this game. And basically, when this card hits the board, I put an Armonite into the Soul, which is the space underneath it, and it has the Soul Guard ability, meaning that I can use cards underneath Armonite Succubus to stop it from getting destroyed. So it's a nice little defensive monster if I'm wanting to have some defense down the center line as well, and it can protect from multiple attacks, not just one. On to size 2 monsters, and here's my buddy monster. 4 copies of Armonite Cerberus. You can use 4 copies of the monster that you're using as your buddy in your deck, as the buddy does not count towards the total in the deck.
Now, you don't have the buddy card that I do. My buddy.
Oh yes. Usually when you get a trial deck, you will get a card called My Buddy, which you can use in your main deck as a substitute for one of the copies of your buddy monster. It's not bad for when you're starting out, but you would be better off having 4 copies of the same card in the main deck, and another copy outside on your buddy circle. Armonite Cerberus, the reason that I actually have this as my buddy monster is that it has the Soul Guard ability like Armonite Succubus does. However, it has the ability Full Fire, which allows it to use the cards in its soul to destroy my opponent's monsters on the field. The way that it gains soul is that it basically takes in any size 1 or size 0 monsters that I have on my side of the field, which is another reason why I run Armonite Eagle, because if I have a size 1 monster I want to keep and Cerberus on the board, I can use the size 0 Eagle to move into the soul and use the Full Fire ability to destroy one of my opponent's monsters, or keep the Armonite Cerberus in play. So it can serve as both a defensive and an offensive option, which is why I really like it.
Oh, there are other mechanics to this game, but we'll say those mechanics when we do the demonstration.
Yes, as me and Predaking will be having a demonstration buddy fight at a later point. I also run 4 copies of Armonite Golem. This is a very nice defensive option, as it has 8,000 defense power, which is the number up top, and the 5,000 attack power is what's on the bottom. Its defensive capabilities are fantastic. Not many other monsters apart from size 3s will usually be able to get through that defense alone. You can, however, have 2 monsters attack together, which is the link attack, which is what most people would try to do to destroy a monster like this, but it means they would end up using 2 attacks to take down just 1 monster.
Or there's the mechanic which one Dragon World deck can use, where they attack with 1 monster and use 2 counter spells, but we'll begin into the spells at a later point.
Yes. So it's a very nice defensive option if I don't have any weapons that I wish to attack with. Again, I will get to the weapons factor in a minute. And lastly, for the 2s, I run 3 Armonite Medusa. This card is a very nice card for the fact that it has the Penetrate ability, which... Sorry. Oh, come on.
Sorry.
It has the Penetrate ability, which means that if it attacks a monster and destroys it, a monster on the center circle, and destroys it, I can deal damage to my opponent directly, which is always a nice, it's a nice plus to be able to deal 2 damage and kill my opponent's monster at the same time. And currently I only have 1 size 3 monster in my entire deck, and that is Armonite Demon. This card is very costly, but can be very effective. It's very powerful with 9,000 attack and 8,000 defense, and 3 critical. It costs 2 gauge and 1 monster on my side of the field to bring out. However, it has the double attack ability, meaning it can attack twice in 1 turn. Meaning it can take down 2 of my opponent's monsters, or deal 6 damage to my opponent, which is more than half of their starting life. It's very unlikely that I would manage to deal that amount of damage in in 1 turn, but it's not necessarily impossible. Now, onto my item cards, which are my weapons. I run 4 copies of Hysteric Spear. This card is the better of my choices for weapons. When you play a weapon, you equip it to your flag, which effectively is you, and you use these weapons to attack the opponent. You can't use weapons, however, if you've got a monster on your centre circle. So, basically, if you don't have a weapon, you would probably want to play a monster on the centre to defend with. But, if you do have a weapon, if you want to deal a high amount of damage to the opponent, you can attack the opponent yourself with a weapon.
And for those that don't have the vivid imagination, it's basically Ed Phoenix holding that spear.
Yeah, that's pretty much how they depict it in the anime. You pay 2 gauge to play it, but it also has the penetrate ability. It combos off really, really well with Armonite Medusa, because both those monsters have penetrate. If I were to link attack with both of them and kill a monster on the centre circle, I would deal 4 damage to my opponent, which is quite a massive amount in this game, so it is a nice combo if the opponent cannot block it. So, yeah, it's my optimum weapon.
We will be profiling my deck, but because I have to operate the camera, I'm getting Ed Phoenix to profile mine, but I'll explain the cards, because I'm a bit of a madman when it comes to a deck.
My other weapon is Boulder Piercing Spear. It is only 3,000 power and 2 critical, and it doesn't cost anything. So it's good if I can't get a hold of Hysteric Spear, but it's far better for me to use Hysteric Spear if I have the gauge to pay for it, and if I actually have it in hand. But Boulder Piercing Spear is a nice substitute to have if I don't have the Hysteric Spear on hand. And now onto my spell cards. I run 3 copies of Thunder Devastation, which pay 2 gauge and destroy all my opponent's monsters with 5,000 defense or less. Most offensive monsters that are size 2 and lower usually have less than 5,000 defense. So if my opponent is trying to mount an offensive against me and it comes to my turn, I can drop that and basically wipe out their entire field and then counterattack, which is not bad at all.
Right, off my head, I can name 1,000 Rapier, that's got less than 5,000.
It's only got 1,000 defense if I remember
Bear
rightly.
Trap Fang.
Yeah.
And
Drum Bunker Dragon's 5,000, 5,000.
Yeah, Drum Bunker Dragon.
And I also run 4 copies of Battle Spirit Unite. This is one of my counter spells, which is quite nice. Basically, it adds the power of my weapon to the attack or defense of any of my monsters and gives my monster counterattack. Which means that any monster that is attacking me, if my monster survives the attack, my monster can attack it back. I usually use this card on, say, Armonite Golem. If I'm wanting to conserve my life, and Armonite Golem is on the centre and I have a weapon equipped, my opponent can end up attacking me. I use it on Armonite Golem to raise its defense high enough so that it can't be hit by even a size 3 monster, and then I can end up counterattacking and destroying one of my opponent's monsters if they try to link attack us, if they're trying to link attack me, or something along those lines. So it's nice. Basically it can help me save any of my monsters that are on the centre line or anywhere that any monsters are being attacked. I also run 3 copies of Battle Aura Circle. It is a counter that nullifies an attack if I don't have a monster on my centre circle. It's not bad if I'm trying to keep a hold of life, or that my opponents are trying to attack a monster on my left or my right. So it's basically good for defense on any of my monsters as long as I haven't got anything in the center. I also run 2 copies of Lord Aura Meditation. It is a counter spell that allows me to charge 2 cards from the top of my deck into my gauge. It's nice to give me extra gauge if I need it, but I probably wouldn't run any more copies than 2, because I'd probably find that it's useful sometimes, but it's not useful all the time. I also run 2 copies of Invigorating Breath. This card is really nice, as it allows me to gain 4 life when basically it can give me 4 life at any time as long as I have a weapon equipped. So basically, if I'm running low on life, I can play that. But it's alright. And any cards, but however, if I've got any copies of Invigorating Breath in my graveyard, I gain 1 less life off it. So basically, that's why I don't run more copies than 2 in the deck, because say when I've used say 2 or 3 copies of it, the life gain from it gets less and less. So I only really need 2 of them in the deck, as I would say. And lastly, for the spells, I run 2 copies of Survival Chance. It's a card that allows me to pay 1 gauge to draw 2 cards. However, I have to have 5 or less life for it. That is cutting quite fine for like getting towards the end of the game for wanting to draw extra cards, but usually at that point in the game I'm running quite low on hand anyway, so it is nice to get the extra cards in hand. But you don't really want to draw this early in the game because you won't be able to use it because you'll have too much life. And then finally, I have 3 impact cards. And these are 3 copies of the only impact card that the Danger will have thus far, Drill Bunker. This card is fantastic as long as I've got a weapon equipped. And I've got 2 gauge in my gauge. It allows me to attack with, basically I have to leave my weapon and not attack with it. But during my final phase, I play that. My weapon gains 4,000 power, 2 critical, and penetrate, which is a bit meaningless on my Hysteric Spear, but on Boulder Piercing Spear it is fantastic, because it basically turns Boulder Piercing Spear into a slightly more powerful Hysteric Spear with a massive amount of critical on it. So it's pretty much a game finisher. It's definitely not a card that I would want to dismiss at all. It's good. And